Let's create a really great effect using animations on scroll. You will love it, and this will make our website look absolutely stunning. And what I'm talking about is this. So these items here have this very cool animation, and they fade in as we scroll to their position. And the same thing here with the iPhone, which comes down from here and also creates this cool effect. And then here the same thing with the city images, and we also have this nice animation here. You saw that? This is to call the attention of the user. So let me now show you how we can do this with jQuery and CSS. So how are we going to achieve those great animations? Well, to start with, there's a very cool CSS animation framework, because powerful animations can be done just using CSS. And I will show you some of them. So we have a whole lot of different stuff here. This is like really endless. Let me just show you some of them. Bounce right in. All kinds of stuff. So the one that you saw was this, the pulse, then we saw the bounce in up, and we saw the fade in. And those are the ones we're going to use, and we're going to use jQuery to actually trigger those animations. So we will now use again the Waypoint plugin. So animations on scroll. And in order to do that, we need to, again, here in the HTML file, set where we want that animation to happen. So if you remember, in the first lecture, we used the waypoint right here, right? So here was our waypoint. Now what we want to do is to animate these 4 columns here, basically, right? So as you saw, these columns will have an animation. And in fact, it is this entire row. So we will just say WP for waypoint 1. So this row will have our first waypoint and our first animation. Alright, so let's do that. And just as we did before, we now select waypoint 1, and then we say waypoint. And again, we know the direction, but in this case we will not use it actually, because this animation will only happen once. And how does this animation actually work with CSS? Let me go back here. So all you need to do to animate an element using this animate CSS framework is to add a class animated and then the name of the animation we want. For instance, fade out or fade in, which is the one we want here. So all we need to do, really all we need, is to add those classes to this exact element that we select here. I actually forgot to do that. So, and now it's really easy. We just say add class as we did before, and then the classes we add are animated and fade in. Really, really easy. So let's check that out. And in order to do that, we actually really need to reload the page. So let's close this. Okay, we forgot to do one thing here, of course, which is this need to be invisible before we trigger the animation, right? So otherwise it's impossible that this fades in because it is already visible. Okay, So back here we need to change that in the CSS file, and I will do that down here. Let me just grab a copy of this here and say this is for animations. Okay, so JS, we pay 1. Now there are a couple of ways of doing this, and you maybe remember one of those was display a none, which we used to hide the navigation menu before, but that wouldn't work in this case. In this case we have to say opacity is 0. So pretty straightforward. If we set the opacity to 0, that element is not visible. And then once the JS Waypoint 1 class also has the animated class, then we want the opacity back to 1. So how do we do that? And that is actually a new selector that we didn't use so far. It's like the end selector. So what I did before was like this, and then animated. So this would be animated inside of the JS Waypoint 1 class. But what I want now is that this class should have these both classes at the same time. So this is the selector we use. So that element has a JS Waypoint 1 class and the animated class at the same time. And then I want opacity back to 1. And now, of course, the most important thing we didn't even do yet is to incorporate this animation CSS framework, right? So let's download that. And here we are. So Omnifood, edits vendors, and it's CSS. So let's put it here. So now I have the animate CSS file here. And let me then incorporate it here, of course. And it could be right here because it's also in the vendors folder. And it's the animate file. Great. And now this will work. Let's see. So we come down here. And okay, the animation happens exactly when we hit this part. So the beginning of the Waypoint 1 class, which is like here. So we, of course, don't want this to happen this way. We want this to animate when it's like here in this position. So we should set an offset to this code, to this waypoint, such as we did before. And we do this right here. So offset, and let's say 50%, because 50% would be half of the page. And I think that would be great. And we actually don't want this semicolon here. So let's check this. Here we go. Now it nicely zooms in as we scroll to the element. Very nice. I really like this effect. And now I'm going to do the same thing with this image, and this image should come here from the button all to this place, which creates a nice effect of an image sliding in. And then I will do the fade in with these 4 images, so with this whole column. And then I want to grab some attention of the user, because there's a cool effect for that here in the animate library. It's like this, right? See it? So this is called pulse. And now this should be pretty straightforward. I'll just copy this a couple of times and rename this to 3 and 4. So this is the first one we already did. This will be the second one. So the image, these will be the cities. So fade in is just right. And this will then be that pricing plan, which will pulse. And the other one is, let me see, bounce in up. Oh, maybe that's a little too much. I would say fade in up. Okay, fade in up is cool. So fade in up here for number 3. That's not correct. Here for number 2. So let's now set those waypoints. So second is not here, and this image is right here. So I want this to be the JS waypoint 2. So the image. Now the cities, in fact the entire row, such as before. So this is the JavaScript waypoint number 3. And then, so where's this pricing plan that I want? It is plan box, exactly this one. So here I will add JS waypoint 2. 4. And now here in the CSS we need to come back down here and do this one here for all the waypoints that will fade in. So number 1, 2, and 3, because number 4 does not fade in, right? Number 4 just has those pulsing effect. So 2 and 3. So let's check this out. Here we are. There comes the second one, very nice. This is also very nice. And this pulsing effect. So all of them work exactly the way we want this. Now there's only one more thing that I want to show you with this. And for instance, we saw that this animation was a little bit slow. So we have a way to change that with pure CSS once again. And what I'm talking about is animation duration. And I will set it to 1 second. Alright. And the same thing, of course, for waypoint 4. Waypoint 4, animation duration 1 second. And I will also prefix this. And you see now we have those WebKit prefixes. So let's try that again. So these animations are a little annoying because we have to reopen the website all the time. So this is faster now, yes, you can see. And this was also a little bit faster. And I think also this one. So this was triggering animations on scroll. You can do all kinds of effects with this. This was just to show you the basics of animations. You can do all the stuff, and in fact you can also use this Animate CSS framework completely without jQuery. You can just add those classes that we add in HTML, and then those elements will animate in the beginning. Simple as that. And so we have only one more jQuery lecture left. And so in the next video we will make our navigation responsive, because that's an important part that we left out as we make our website responsive. So see you there.